Valve created two of the most competitive esports on the planet, Dota 2 and Counter-Strike. Now they have Deadlock, a MOBA shooter hybrid that peaked at 171,000 players. But here's the problem. The community is calling matchmaking Jordan versus a 5-year-old. Before we dive into this video, I do want to say that Deadlock is still in a playtest, meaning the full game is not out yet, and they're still working out balancing issues, kinks, etc. So yeah, let's get into it. Despite hitting an all-time peak of over 171,000 concurrent players, Deadlock's player base crashed hard, settling in at around 10 to 20,000. A recent update did bump that back up to around 60,000, but that volatility tells a story. Broken matchmaking, rampant toxicity, and radio silence from Valve. Does Deadlock have what it takes to become the next $40 million international? Or is this Artifact 2.0? A game that loses 95% of its players within 2 months. Today we're breaking down the core strengths that make this game special, the critical thinking problems killing retention, and the exact development blueprint that Valve needs to follow. Deadlock's esports future, the complete analysis. Quick context for those new to Valve's track record. The International, otherwise known as TI, is Dota 2's global championship. Crowdfunded prize pools reaching over $40 million, sold out arenas, global recognition. That's the dream. The nightmare? Artifact. A Valve card game that lost over 95% of its players in 2 months. Beautiful design, but terrible execution. Dead on arrival. These are two possible futures for Deadlock, and right now, the community is fighting to make sure it doesn't become another Artifact. The Grassroots Scene, a community fighting for an esport. So here's the most compelling proof that Deadlock could be an esport. The community is building itself right now without Valve's help. Because Valve hasn't committed any resources yet, the competitive scene is entirely grassroots. We've seen dedicated community members, not Valve employees, running and hosting weekly tournaments. Events like Deadlock Fight Night have popped up, attracting significant viewership for the closed beta. Major esports organizations are already signing rosters. Professional teams are investing time and money now because they believe in the game's core potential. This is critical. When a competitive community is this active this early, before official support, it shows the game design is strong enough to sustain itself. The community is telling Valve, we want to play this competitively, just give us the tools. The core strengths. Why this could work. A. The hybrid advantage. 2 massive audiences. Let's start with what Deadlock gets right and why the competitive potential is genuinely massive. This isn't a MOBA with guns slapped on it, this is a true skill ceiling fusion. You need Counter-Strike precision for getting headshots, securing souls, and winning teamfights, but you also need Dota and MOBA level game sense for itemization, cooldown management, and map control. This taps into two of the biggest competitive gaming scenes there are. FPS aim gods and MOBA strategists. That crossover potential is enormous. B. Competitive drama built into the design. The game naturally creates tournament-ready moments. For starters, the shared soul economy is brilliant. It prevents one fed player from carrying the whole game and forces the team to work together through synergy. And the final patron objective, that's your grand finals moment. Base race energy, comeback potential. This game's perfect for highlights and clips. This game wants to be an esport. C. Valve's infrastructure is already there. And then there's the obvious advantage. Valve literally invented modern esports crowdfunding with the International. They've run decade-long competitive scenes. They have Steam integration, tournament infrastructure, and broadcasting experience. Everything you need is already built. If, and this is a critical if, Valve actually commits, they can scale this tremendously. Section 6. The critical problems. Why players are leaving. So with all of this potential, why did the game lose over 90% of its player base? Let's talk about the 5 critical problems that are destroying retention. Problem 1. Matchmaking integrity is broken. Veterans with 500 hours of experience playing against people who literally just booted up the game for the first time. The MMR system has 0 integrity. New players get destroyed in lane, don't understand what happened, then never want to play the game again. Veterans get bored stomping and leave. Nobody wins. And this isn't just a small sample, this is a community-wide experience. Problem 2. Toxicity is killing the community. But even if matchmaking was perfect, there's a deeper rot. This game has a toxicity problem that is actively driving players away. We're talking slurs in voice chat, intentional feeding, griefing, AFK players, the full spectrum of competitive gaming's worst behavior. And here's the killer. The reporting system doesn't work. Players report, nothing happens, and offenders keep queuing. When there's no consequences, bad behavior becomes normalized. New players try Deadlock for their first time, get flamed, and then uninstall. Problem 3. The learning curve is exhausting. Listen to how players describe the experience. I can only bring myself to play a few games per week. The mental load is too intense. PvE creep farming is more mechanically demanding than Dota, but it also feels like a chore. There's no casual mode and no relaxed way to learn. Almost every match is high stakes ranked energy. For pure FPS players, the MOBA elements feel demanding. For MOBA players, the aim requirement is a barrier. You're trying to appeal to everyone and burning out both audiences. Problem 4. Spectating is unwatchable. But here's the thing, even if you fixed everything else, there's still this. The third-person camera is an observer's nightmare. Teamfights are visual chaos. Particle effects blocking action, camera angles missing key moments, and no clear way to follow win conditions. Compare this to Dota's top-down tactical clarity or Valorant's clean spectator UI. You can't really build a Tier-1 esport if casual viewers can't understand what they're watching. Problem 5. Valve's silence and data lockdown. And tying all of this together is the frustrating part. Valve has gone completely silent. Granted, this is still a playtest. There's no roadmap or acknowledgement of most of these issues. No communication timeline. And recently, they cut off third-party API access, which shut down stat tracking sites. Yes, this is a beta, but competitive communities need data. They need build tracking, meta-analysis, and theory crafting. Content creators have nothing to work with and pros are flying blind. But this also makes you question if Valve wants to take a different direction with the game and not be so focused on the stats and stat lockers, so they can have a more clear approach in developing the game and feeling out which heroes are too good, too bad, etc. Because one hero in a low rank might be really bad, but they might be really good in a higher rank when they're working with a well-coordinated team. The development blueprint. How to fix this. Keep in mind, I'm not a game developer. These are just some suggestions. Also, let me know in the comments what you think Valve should do to make this development more seamless or better. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problems. Let's talk about solutions. The exact development blueprint that Valve can follow if they want this game to succeed competitively. Priority 1. Implement trust factor matchmaking. Valve already solved most of this problem in Counter-Strike. Let's take the trust factor system from there and bring it over here. Match players based on skill and behavior. Veterans who don't grief get matched with other veterans. Toxic players get isolated together. And new players get protected in lobbies full of learners. This isn't theoretical. Valve has a working model, so why don't we deploy it? The only problem I can think with this is the new player lobbies who get the occasional smurf who makes a new account and is really a really high rank on another account. But ultimately, if you come across one of those, they should rank up relatively quickly and get moved into the higher ranks. That's a whole separate issue in itself, which we aren't going to talk about in this video. Priority 2. Zero tolerance enforcement. Toxicity should have immediate, visible consequences. Implement a clear, escalating penalty system. First offense, communication ban. Second offense, 24-hour game ban. Third offense, week-long ban. Fourth offense, permanent. And critically give players feedback when their report results in action. When people see the system working, they use it. However, Valve does have a notorious history for the report system not working up to par, but we can most definitely see what the future holds. Priority 3. Onboarding and casual modes. New players need a path to competence that doesn't involve ranked hell. Add a comprehensive tutorial system. Also, you could create a beginner-only queue where there's no veterans and no smurfs. Also, add an unranked casual mode for people who just want to learn without MMR anxiety. Priority 4. Spectator client overhaul. The spectator experience should definitely be a priority if they want this game to make it to a pro-level esport potential. Develop an optional top-down tactical camera for observers, clean up visual clutter in teamfights, and add clear UI indicators for objectives and win conditions. Study Dota, study Valorant, study League, then execute. If people can't watch, then it can't be an esport. Priority 5, communication and data access. And finally, Valve should break their silence. This isn't saying that Valve is completely silent about everything, because the developer IceFrog and the Valve team are pretty open about upcoming patches and fixes. However, there are a few things that they could do, which I assume they're likely planning on doing in the future as this game is still early. But firstly, release a public development roadmap, acknowledge community feedback, and restore API access for proper documentation and community tools. The competitive scene wants to build content, run tournaments, and analyze the meta. For this point, I can also see why Valve wanted to block the API. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because I'm sure blocking the API can help them get more of a grasp for balance of the game and other factors, and maybe they'll end up releasing the API later on down the road when the game's more developed. Here's my final analysis, and I'm being as objective as possible. Deadlock has the competitive design, infrastructure, and audience potential to become a Tier-One esport. The core gameplay is genuinely compelling, the hybrid model works, and the community is already building a competitive scene. But in its current state, it's going to plateau into a Tier-2 game. Dedicated community, regional tournaments, and college esport presence. A loyal but small scene. Tier-1 status, global recognition, major league structures, and multi-million-dollar prize pools, that only happens if this game is developed perfectly. They've built the foundation, the potential is massive, but Valve's hands-off approach, the thing that works for established games, is poison for a beta that's trying to build an audience. The path forward is clear, the priorities are obvious. I know most of the community would love to see these changes. The ball is entirely in Valve's court. Alright, your turn. What's priority number 1 for you? Matchmaking, toxicity enforcement, spectator improvements? Drop your take in the comments. I'm reading all of them. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as we have a lot more coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.